Hello there and welcome to the Terrace Scottish Football Podcast. My name is G Telfer and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. Instead of being joined by a lad with wet look gel and pronounced temple veins or a slender boy with a translucent ribcage and excellent audio, we are joined by a proper football man. Someone who's been in the SFL and the SPFL for almost 15 years, someone who has won 2 league titles and someone that gets actually paid Great British pounds for kicking a ball around. It's Forfar Athletic's wide boy, Danny Denholm. Danny, this is a pleasure to share the platform with you.
Your intros get better and better. It's a pleasure as well to see you again. I seen you obviously at Stair Park.
Yes.
2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
And you were just telling me before recording you were up in Inverness and Annan, so now you're getting about.
Yes, this is it, and it's great to actually not have to talk about Stennispear taking a pumping on Tuesday night, and instead what we're going to do is we're going to use this opportunity to talk to Danny about his career, how the season's gone so far, including his loan move from the Spartans to Station Park, and while we're doing that, we're going to weave in a broader look of League Two. You know, Danny's obviously seen every team this season, multiple occasions, got a far greater knowledge of the level than myself or anyone else associated with this podcast can do. And if we're lucky, we might have a spare 40 minutes to talk about Michael McIndoe. That sounds exciting to me.
Yeah, the less said about the latter, the better probably.
We did, I think the last time Sean and I did a podcast about Edinburgh, we ended up spending about 40 minutes talking about Edinburgh and Michael McIndoe, all glowingly positive as well.
Aye, well there's plenty of content there, I'm sure.
Excellent. I think, Danny, as well, the last time you and I shared a platform together, it would have been at the beginning of the season when we were on the BBC Sports Scotland's League One and League Two preview podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Got a lot of things wrong. I
can't remember exactly what I said, but I'm pretty sure I was the voice of reason. I think people were saying at the time Edinburgh City are going to be miles adrift, and I was saying, nah, I don't think so. Maybe didn't have them at these lofty heights. And people were saying Clyde would be at the opposite end, streets ahead. And I said, I don't necessarily think so. But again, maybe not quite to what has seemed to have panned out. But I think Cam was the closest, so I'm taking some credit for that.
I think I said I can guarantee 2 things. I said Edinburgh will finish bottom and Clyde will finish top. And oh my goodness, it's safe to say I got that one wrong. I cannot believe I've been allowed on to subsequent podcasts. It just goes through. I think that's like the broader media. You can just get stuff wrong all the time and no one really cares. Just move on to the next one.
Fitting in.
Definitely. But Danny, we'll start by looking at the season so far. You spent the first half of the campaign, and it might be an impression, a bit of a bit part player with the Spartans. You moved out on loan to Forfar Athletic in late January, and your arrival has coincided with an upturn of form that has seen the Loons move off the foot of the table and into 9th place, albeit just with a better goal difference than Bonnyrigg. On the whole, how has the season been for you?
Probably on the whole, probably not great to this point, but I mean, I kind of knew when I signed, I knew my role was to be bit part, but it's been probably even more bit part than I thought at Spartans, just as it panned out, the way the seasons went. So, but the last 4 weeks, I've got a wee bit of buzz again. Obviously, going to Forfar Club 42 when I signed. Now at the moment, Club 41, I think at the moment. So. No, it's been good actually to go back and play some games because I haven't played at all, and to, I think, contribute in a positive manner to Forfar's upturn has been great. And as I say, I've not suffered a loss since I've been in there. The only game the game they did lose was against Clyde, and I had a vomiting bug that weekend. So I've only experienced the positive side. I'm sure there'll be plenty more ups and downs over the next few weeks, and I'll experience some pain with them as well. But at the moment, I'm just trying to, as I say, take each game as it comes, a little cliche, but I'm just trying to enjoy each game and enjoy what comes after the game. As I say, we came down the road for Elgin on Saturday and it was brilliant because I don't know how many more of them I'll have, and just that bus home once you've won a game at a really long place away on a Saturday like Elgin's fantastic. Yeah,
brilliant, man. And how did that move to Forfar come back around?
It was really weird, because my dad phoned me. So I was taking the girls' football team at Crossford Primary School where I work. They had a wee tournament after school. So I was taking them up for a tournament. I was in the car on my way to that tournament to meet them, and we were playing there. And I got a phone call from my dad. And he was like, "You got 5 minutes?" "Yeah, 5 minutes." It was just like, "Do you fancy fancy going on loan to Forfar? And I went, are you my agent again? What's happening? Where is this came from? I hadn't even realised at the time that Gavin Price was assistant manager. I forgot that, but my dad is members of Aberfeldy Tennis Club.
Right.
And knows Gavin through that. They play
That's
squash.
amazing.
Dad says Gavin Price is a cheat. Gavin Price says my dad's a cheat, but listen, it's two different stories. Anyway, he said that he'd been chatting to him, said he sounded my dad out, so I got a phone call. I went, it sounds okay, but it doesn't sound very concrete that it's maybe some locker room talk between you and the assistant manager at Forfar. So I get lots of missed calls during this tournament from Mark Watley, player coach, and he sort of confirms the case. And I went, it was just before I was going to training at Spartans actually the night as well, and I went, do you know what, actually I would, the way that they're speaking about it, I'll go and play some games. Yeah, I think I'm quite keen to do that. And they went, right, well, Jim Weir's going to phone Dougie tonight, see what the crack is. And then I came to training. Gaffer didn't say anything, Dougie didn't say anything until the end of the session, and then he was like, what are you thinking? What do you want to do? And I went, to be honest, we'll play. And he was good about it, to be fair. He went, listen, you've trained well, and I don't want to patronise you and tell you that you're going to play here, because you're not really going to play here. So if you want to go out and play at Forfar, then you've got my blessing. So that was it. Turned up after that Thursday. I did some paperwork online on the Friday, and then I was in the squad for Bonnyrigg at the weekend. So, and I got to play in the hallowed turf of Bonnyrigg on the Saturday. So that was really quick. But as I say, I'm glad that I've made that move. In hindsight, it's looking good at the moment as well.
That's good, man. And I suppose that Dougie Samuel just being honest with you from interviewing a lot of players. That's how you and I met a couple of years ago when I interviewed you for the Pelly podcast. And I'd like to think we're friends. I was at your wedding, so I suppose there is a degree of legitimacy there when I say my mate plays for Forfar. So I think I can get away with that. But certainly interviewing players in those podcasts, honesty is something that players seem to really value, just to know where you stand and know that what the manager says something, that's what's going to happen. Yeah, absolutely.
I think you hear it so many times in different podcasts. You just want to know. All players seem to say it. You just want to know where you stand. Even if it hurts that little bit getting that bit of information, you'd rather it happen that way than have these mixed signals, and then you end up just because it takes over. I know we play part time. It takes over your thoughts all the time. I'll be sitting on the couch with my wife trying to watch Yellowstone or whatever it is, and I'll be thinking about football, or at soft playing with my son, and he's probably hanging off something, and I'm just thinking about I could. And so like it does take over our brains, and it means a lot to us. So we just want to know where we stand exactly, and if that's bad news initially, can deal with that rather than having it dragged out and not really knowing. So no, he was honest with me, and I respected that, and actually it's worked in probably both our favour, because he's probably got a wage freed up as well.
Yeah.
Which is good for both parties.
And no reservations about joining a club who were, at that time, I think it was 10 points adrift at the foot of League Two?
No, not really, because just the way they were speaking, it was like, you're going to go and play. And at this stage of my career, which I'm probably going to pack it in the summer.
Yeah.
Would I want to pack it in by just turn up at Spartans and training, because I'm not going to play even from the bench. I've not been coming on at all. Or do I want to go in and try and do something at Forfar, which is a club, obviously, it genuinely does mean a lot to me. Forfar, it gave me the chance in the game. I won promotion there, and I got relegated there. I had ups and downs there. Probably the best of my career was probably there. To go back there, it was a really good opportunity for me. I didn't see it coming at all. So, yeah, I think my thinking is I want to go and play some games and hopefully keep them in the league. And at the moment, we're in a good position to do so. At 10 points adrift, and maybe didn't look that way, but last 3 weeks have probably caught a few people off guard, and we're in a decent position now.
Yeah, I mean, I saw you mentioned it at the top of the show, I saw you in action midweek against Stranraer, and it was a very strong-willed performance, especially in the second half from Forfar, because you went into the interval a goal down and a man down after Mackenzie Lemon was sent off, and at that point I would not have foreseen Forfar coming back into the game. Dreadful game of football, I've got to say, a lot of blood and thunder, but that character to come back into it was remarkable. I mean, tell us about that match.
It was exactly what you were thinking. See, the first half, not only like we were a man down, a goal down, I thought we were outplayed.
Yeah.
And albeit on not a lot of chances for either side, well, none for us, to be honest with you. But I was impressed with their energy first half, and we looked nowhere near it. And then also we had a rollicking at half time, as you'd expect, and we're down to 10 men. And he was sort of humming hawing on what to do, and he went for a 3-4-2. I think after speaking to I think working, because they've got a great relationship. I've noticed that between Jim Weir and Gavin Price. They've got a great relationship, and they came up with a 3-4-2, which is how we set up second half, just with the two up top, and it made such a difference. Even with 10 men, it felt like on the pitch second half, it felt evenly matched.
You would never have known. You'd actually, if you'd walked into that game at half time, you would never have known you had a man disadvantage.
Aye, it was night and day from the first half, and the two up top made such a difference, because we brought in Josh Skelly and Rodden, who Rodden, I think he'd been on the bench the first game I'd been there. I hadn't seen much of him, but what a difference he's made, because it's just runs channels. He's constant energy. He's always giving defenders something to think about. And Josh Skelly was winning his headers, forcing them up the pitch. And then the right back, Cammy Logan, he played right side of the floor, and I played left side, and we did okay. We got up and down, did our defensive duties, and saw the back. It was bizarre how it happened, and maybe they hit the bar just before we scored the winner. Maybe we've got lucky. Let's be honest. And the penalty did look a bit soft, but I felt for our efforts in that second half that we probably deserved it. Maybe that's me being biased. And then we've taken that into Saturday as well. So you're thinking you could be 6 points adrift at half time, and all of a sudden you've got that sort of boost, huge boost, last minute winner, and then we go up to Elgin, confidence high, and I thought dominated the Elgin game on Saturday, to be honest with you. So we've went from being 10 adrift, then 6 adrift, looking like we're going to stay 6 adrift to level. So no, that was I'm hoping a pivotal moment in Forfar's season. It feels that way at the moment.
It definitely feels like it, given the fact as well, 2 very long distances for Forfar to travel, midweek down to Stranraer, and then at the weekend up to Elgin. I think to come away with those with victories, it does feel like a turning point in the season. And Danny, as you mentioned, this is your third time, your third spell with Forfar Athletic, because you mentioned they joined them from Stirling University in 2012. They had a season at Livingston, returned to the club, played for them between 2014 2017. How do you think the club's changed in the 13 years that you've sort of been associated with them?
It's hard to know at the moment, because I've only been in the door 3 weeks, but it doesn't look like it's changed that much in terms of like. So Davy McGregor was big when I was there the first time. He's now got a stand named after him, but he's still on the bus. He's still there. It's the same board members. Jim Weir was obviously there a few years ago. He was there after I left, but not long after I left, to be honest with you. Mark McCallum was still there. So, and to be honest with you, I haven't played a home game yet since I've been there. I have only made one training session as well, which hasn't been great. But so I've actually not been up to Forfar since I've resigned. So I'll be interested to see if the same characters are sticking about the ground. Martin Gray, I don't know if you know about him, the kit man at Forfar. He's been there for years.
He's the bald fella.
Bald. He does everything.
Yeah.
He does everything. Do you know what like you take for granted is like. So you turn up there, you don't have to bring training kit, you don't have to wash training kit. Training kit's there for you.
Brilliant.
Your boots are done for you, your towels are done for you. I'm not used to this. I'm used to having my towels, everything bringing it all in this huge big bag. You just have to turn up with your wash bag, or not even if you fancy a shower. Sometimes boys don't fancy a shower after training, having it at home. Nothing. Just turn up. Well, I suppose you won't have a shower. You're not going driving home in you. But like for me, that's like I don't think players realise how lucky they are with that. But anyway, he's still there. He's got his son was there when I was at my first spell. He must have been about 8-year-old. He's now whatever age he is, and he's got a kid. So like that's changed. There's offspring, but it's still in the Martin Gray clan that they're still there. So now it's very much a sort of traditional club, which is part of the reason I really liked Forfar. Sort of going to Forfar after I left and playing there was I loved the ground and the terrace and at the ground. It's got an old school feel to it. So I'm looking forward to going back, and I'll get to go on Saturday. I won't get to play there on Saturday because we're playing Spartans, and I've got a wee hamstring knock as well. But I'll get to go take my son this time, and we'll run about the terrace in. So I'm looking forward to going back, and I'll probably answer that more fully once I see if the characters are all still lurking around Station Park that were last time.
Who are you supporting on Saturday?
Forfar. Of course, like that's right now. I'm there as a player, and obviously Spartans are fighting for the playoffs, but I'm going to be wearing my Forfar tracksuit on Saturday, and I'm going to be going up, and I'll be cheering the Forfar score. And listen, Spartans, I still hope they get playoffs. I don't even know what the crack is with my deal. Maybe I can help contribute to save the Forfar. Spartans can get in the playoffs, so they can recall me, and then I can score the winning goal in the playoffs. But at this moment, I'm a Forfar player. I want Forfar to go and win. It'll be a tough game though, because every game against Spartans that Forfar played, Spartans, when I've been there, I've seemed to just edge it. But it's not been classic encounters, but they seem to be late goals. So it'll be a right right good game. I think Spartans are on a good run as well.
You mentioned there about that you've got a genuine affection for the club, and given that to me it feels like Forfar shouldn't be a club battling at the bottom of League Two. Certainly when I think of Forfar, I think of them as like an upper mid-table League One team. I think they just sort of bad decisions fall on hard times. They feel, to me, it's not a position to be in. Is it something the players are aware of, like the club's position in the SPFL is at stake here, and it's something that they really have to care about?
Yeah, I think so. I think that if they weren't aware, they should be aware within the first team talk that we received at Bonnyrigg, because Jim Weir was what his team talk was all about, the badge and the history of this club and what is the ramifications of them in this position. And you need to have a sense of pride playing for this club, because it is, as I say, a historic club that's had some incredible players, has had a lot of success down the years. And I suppose the last few years have maybe been sleepwalking into this position, because they've had maybe a few seasons where they've been sort of a bit uninspiring, sort of the bottom half of League Two. So I think Jim Weir certainly made it clear, the gaffer certainly made it clear to the boys. And from what I've seen so far, I know I've got a weird position because I've came in and we've won 3 games, so I'm seeing that side of things. I'm not seeing what it's like when the going's tough and you're losing games, but they seem like they've got character. They seem like they're fighting for everything. There's nobody that I can look around that dressing room that looks like they've down tools, and I've played for teams in relegation fights in the past where I can see 2 or 3 that have certainly down tools. This doesn't appear to be the way in this dressing room. So no, I think the players from my view know exactly the position Forfar in and the weight of it, and what it will mean to the clubs just staying up and hopefully going again next year.
Before we move on to looking at the other team's division, that's really interesting about sharing a dressing room with players that have perhaps down tools. How can you tell if a player like you're just not trying anymore?
I mean, I suppose I couldn't say for 100% certain, but I'm just going by I feel like I'm a good judge of character, and when I'm watching them and I'm seeing them train not like they used to train, just and being negative about everything, and like just swan about training even in a terrible position, and then on the pitch they don't look like it's the change of behaviour, it's a change of their style from players that I know can do this or can work that bit harder and just aren't working that harder and don't seem to care and don't seem to be present in the dressing room. Like, we've all got stuff going on in our lives, etc., but when you get to that dressing room, I feel like you need to just try and be present, and I noticed on a few occasions that these guys just didn't want to be there, just didn't appear to want to be there. And I'm obviously not going to name names, but it was
that's what we wanted. We wanted some gossip.
Listen, maybe after the recording I'll drop you a few, but you'll probably next week's episode just go, I was speaking to my source about this person and he's dropped me in. So
I think it's something, anytime that Sean and I have read something online or we've heard a rumour, we just refer to it as street talk, and that seems to get us out of any sticky jam. So I heard there's street talk about this player who was perhaps playing at East Fife a couple of seasons ago, and
here we go. Yeah. No. I'll maybe say off air. Listen, I don't mind, but anyway, it's not. I hate that because people, because like, as you say, we care about football. We care a lot about football. All part-time players, you wouldn't be playing unless you did care about football. Majority of them, but on the case where it's not, does grind my gears, because as you say, like, there's fans that came to Stirling that was like 15 of them. Like, that was
brilliant. One of the favourite things at the end there, Mark McCallum's celebration. That's as soon as that full-time whistle went, that's who was overpiling into the fans. And as a fan, when you make that long distance, to be acknowledged like that from the players, that adds a wee bit something extra special to it. Yeah,
definitely, and it means so much to these guys. And then, as you can see, we'll go back to the previous question, and do the players understand? Look at Mark McCallum. I watched the highlights. I was pissing myself. Look at the highlights, because just running and shouting and just whatever it was. But that's someone that's from the local area and is a massive character. Has played at this level and League One and a decent level, and he's a huge guy. You wouldn't mess with Mark McCallum. So he's not going to let anybody. He's not going to let anybody down tools, as we say. So I can't remember what the question was. But
no, the final one there. Are you confident then the team can avoid finishing in 10th place?
Quietly confident, but Bonnyrigg can get going at any stage again. I know they've just sacked their manager and might get a manager bounce. Clyde are maybe there still. They're only 4 points adrift. We've got a few injuries. Every team will have injuries, but it's in our hands now. It wasn't previously. So we're going to back ourselves, of course, but at the same time, we've just escaped. We've just got off the bottom, and we're got off bottom by goal difference. We know how tight it is. So now we can just hopefully take care of results ourselves rather than having to worry and check the scores as much as we would previously be doing, which is with a bit in your hand off 3 weeks ago for that. So we're quietly confident, but we know there's a lot of work to be done.
We'll take a look at some of the rival teams then that are trying to avoid 10th place. And we'll start with Bonnyrigg. Basically, I've broken this down. We're going to start towards the foot of the table and then work our way up towards the summit. So we'll start by discussing Bonnyrigg Rose. They were beaten by Edinburgh City at the weekend. Late goal from James Stokes cost them that match. 1 point from the last 6 games. And earlier in the week, as you mentioned, Callum Ellie and assistant Kevin Smith, who's a friend of yours, left the club. I mean, they're rolling the dice as they go into this final quarter. They actually did the same thing last season when they got rid of Robbie Horn to bring Callum Elliott in. It worked then. Do you think this tactic can work a second time?
They could do. It's obviously the cliche, the new manager bounce. It's a cliche for a reason. So, yeah, assuming that whoever comes, I don't know if they announced the manager yet.
Not yet.
I'm not that I'm aware of, but it could do. It's a difficult place to go, Bonnyrigg, for any team. It is a leveller. So they'll fancy their chances at picking up points at home. And they do have some good players that can play good football, but they just can't play it obviously on that park. No team really can. I don't think even Edinburgh City, who have been passing it all season, I think even they changed their tactics and they went a bit more direct. So it could work. It definitely could work. I hope not from our point of view, but as I say, it worked last season. So
it's interesting you say that because Michael Mackinder on his post-match interview from the weekend just said that it was no disrespect to Bonnyrigg, and obviously when you say that you're obviously going to make a disrespectful comment. He said you can't play football on that pitch, and he said it hurts both teams. It hurts Edinburgh, who really want to get the ball down and play it, but also hurts Bonnyrigg because, as you said, they've got some good players in their ranks who are capable football players, and you just can't do anything on that pitch. And it feels like any time you discuss Bonnyrigg and discuss New Dundas Park, you have to talk about the surface. You made your debut for Forfar, or your third debut for Forfar at New Dundas Park. What's it actually like to play in the pitch?
I feel like I can speak quite with authority on this because I've played more minutes there than I've played at Ainsley Park this season. I started there for Spartans literally 3 weeks before I signed for Forfar, and before that I hadn't played for Spartans in weeks and weeks and weeks. It depends. So the pitch, it depends. So if it's been raining, right, it's boggy, it's heavy, it's hard to get the ball. Even if you kick it as hard as you can, it's hard to get the ball more than 30, 40 yards up the pitch. But then if it's dry, it's rock solid, bobbly. It's probably harder to play on actually. To string a pass on when it's dry. You actually want a bit of rain, I think, on it because it's less bobbly. So it just depends on that. And then if the slant of the pitch, which we all know about, so I've been playing left. I played left back there, and if you're left back defending the bottom of that hill, the ball just gravitates towards you, and it comes in with speed at your head. And it's pretty much just win your headers and move the ball as quickly on as possible. Don't take a touch. Take one touch, get rid of it. And I mean, when I say get rid, it's just hit an area of the park. It's not just kick it anywhere. It's try your best to hit in an area for one of your forward posts to chase. We were lucky to have Cammy Russell at Spartans, and you can be quite. You don't really need to even hit specific areas with him. You just shove a ball over the top and he's that quick, you can get onto it. So that was kind of the tactics when we were at Spartans. But it's really, really, really tough to play. And there's midfield players. We had Reece Armstrong at Spartans who did really well, and Seinfeld dropped for that game. James Cragen, obviously a good footballer as well, dropped for that game. Players that play every week. And it's just, I think the managers that go there and teams that go there knowing that that's the case tend to come out with good results. I think Edinburgh City went there early on this season, got beat. I think they've learnt their lesson because I think they probably did try to not deviate too much from their style.
I think what Edinburgh did going into that was they just strung big laddies across the back and pushed the defensive line up quite high. If I'm going by the stuff that was in Pine Bovel and Macindo's post-match interview, something they wouldn't normally do, but ultimately it worked. It just feels like I've been to Bonnyrigg 4 times, like, to watch Stennismuir play, and although Stennismuir won all 4 matches, I didn't think there was much football played there at all. And it feels like, as a fan going there, on one hand, you want the players to put their foot in it and at least try to pass the ball. If you're good with the ball at your feet, at least try doing that. But at the same token, any time someone took more than a second with the ball, get rid of it. It's perhaps the most of all the places I've ever watched football. That's the place where I felt the most anxious, because you don't want the ball to settle. And it's a terrible game of football, but anytime someone tries to play football, you get so nervous about it. At one point, actually, I remember thinking, I'm going to sit in the car. I'm going to walk back to the high school and sit in the car because I'm so anxious about it. So that's watching it. So it's a really interesting to hear what it's like to
see when the
play in
ball gets passed back to the goalkeeper as well. So if you've passed it back, you're like, and it's bobbling all over the place. When you're on the pitch, you're like, please just make sure you get a clean connection. It should never be the case, but it is the way it is. Do you know what the weird thing about Bonnyrigg as well, though, is I actually enjoy like the rest of the stuff around the pitch. So like the fans are tight to the pitch. They get good crowds. They get passionate crowds who are vocal, and they shout some nonsense at you. But it's like a proper. It feels like a proper game of foot. Like it should be a proper game of football. And it feels. I like it, and they've got the old sort of social club. I don't know. It's got a nice. The romantic in me, it appeals to that. But the pitch, as I say, and as you said, as a fan and as a player, it's just not conducive to any sort of football, and it makes probably watching difficult, and it makes playing very difficult as well.
And it's a shame, because I completely agree with all the stuff you said there about the club. Like going to New Dundas Park, if you take the pitch aside, the social club's fantastic. Everyone there's like really nice. Certainly the people you speak to, and it's quite good to be just like about a metre or so from the touchline, where you can literally touch someone on the shoulder when they're about to take a throw in. But as a player, Danny, say for instance it had been, instead of Forfar coming in to speak to you, say if it had Bonnyrigg that had come in on loan to try and sign you on, would you have gone to Bonnyrigg?
Do you know what? I probably would have, to be honest with you, because, as I said, I'm thinking about packing in the summer, and it's I want to go out playing. And if they'd said to me, they can't listen, you'll come in and you'll play X amount of games or whatever, probably would have went, because I would have felt a bit of purpose again. And even on that, if you're giving me the option of not playing at all or playing on a pitch like that, I still would choose to play on a pitch like that, because it's not just for me. What I really like to be a part of in football is be a part of the team and be a part of contributing to something. And although you can say that as a squad player you're contributing to this and that and this, don't really feel it. So if I'm playing, and it could be a horrible game and we grind out a win at Bonnyrigg and I'm playing for Bonnyrigg, I go home that Saturday night feeling I've got a bit of purpose. I've got a bit of this, a bit of that, and I feel part of it, and I feel like I've contributed, and I feel that from my teammates. I feel the appreciation from them as well. Then I probably would have, to be honest with you, but never got the call. So
that's very interesting. Again, totally going off on a tangent here, but I remember speaking to you after Arbroath won the League One title. That was the first championship that you'd won, and I remember it's like saying that's an amazing achievement, and you were like, it's all right. And I think that the conversation that we had was that you just didn't feel as though you'd contributed all that much to that season compared to like a Tam O'Brien or a Bobby Lynn or something like that.
Yeah, I think. Well, my expectations of myself have definitely lessened from winning League One, and because I definitely in hindsight I contributed to that season, and I played probably a decent amount of football. But from where I was playing previous seasons, where I was starting every game and I was scoring double figures, I wasn't doing that season. But now I'm probably a bit more pragmatic with that, and a bit more obviously realistic of the stage of the career I'm at, and probably just a bit more grateful to still be playing. I think obviously I've keep mentioning it, but the time is ticking. So any little moment where I can just savour. I'm trying to savour it. And in the past, where I may have played for Arbroath, may have won 1-0, might have had an okay game defensively, but not scored, and I might leave that thinking if I didn't contribute much. But I probably did off the ball, probably did. But but at that time I probably couldn't recognise it, and it was maybe because I had higher standards on myself at the time as well. But I think maybe I've lessened my standards, or maybe I'm just trying to savour every little win I can get at this moment. So that's probably where I'm at.
Well, that's good then. That's good. I just remember thinking, my goodness, that's an amazing achievement, and you seemed a bit like, yeah, it was all right. But I suppose that's the benefit. Now you're a bit older, you can be a bit more, pragmatic, so we're a bit more introspective, perhaps, about what you've achieved. But we'll look at Clyde, Danny, and again, going back to the top of the show, we spoke about our appearance in the BBC Sports Scotland podcast. That was one horrendously misjudged on my part, and you were right, you were the voice of reason. I was, just because of Logan Dunnicky scoring a really good goal against Partick Thistle in the League Cup, I was completely carried away by them. But Clyde, the group of players that they signed, certainly, on paper, it looked good. But then having witnessed them over the course of the season, followed their results, followed their form, it seemed like the squad was far lesser than the sum of its parts. Do you think that would be a fair thing to say?
Yeah, I think so. I think, as you say, on paper, there's some really, really good players. But players that probably know they're good and probably know that they're stepping down. And is it a fact? I don't know what it was, but is it just too many? I'm not in the changing room. Is it a case of too many egos and there too many whatever it is, big characters that think they should be playing, and if they're not playing, is it that, again, bad egg thing? Is there a few of them in there? I don't know, because on paper, as you say, it's a team that should really be winning that league, or at least competing at the league. So it could be anything. But they've had quite a season. I even seen on Saturday they had their Twitter admin was up to all sorts as well on Saturday. So on and off the pitch, it's been a bit tricky for them.
Yeah, certainly, and I think the Twitter admin was deported to the colonies in Australia off the back of that. Listen, there's nothing wrong with being feeling erotic about yourself. That's a perfectly acceptable emotion. Just keep it to yourself. But I'm going to use the term street talk again, but the street talk is that I'd heard from a reasonably well placed source. There was a squad player at Clyde was on something like £400 a week. And just for the player in his profile, it just seemed that was outrageous. That somebody like that would be in that sum of money. Is from what you know in football, are the players at Clyde well paid?
Yeah.
Is it something you as football players know how much relative players are on?
I think again, it's like if someone's on a lot of money, it's like, oh, you hear what this guy's on, and they had a couple of zeros, or they had a couple of he signed for this team, and if it was a lot of money, say he was earning $450 a week, it would be all of a sudden, oh, he's on $650. So if there'd be a bit of hyperbole there, but I think there's no secret really that Clyde were the calibre of players they've got that have stepped down from the Championship League One. They're not going there because they love Clyde. Some maybe, but I don't think so. I think they're going there because, well, one, they've seen the other players that have signed and went, good chance to win a league. But two, probably financially. I can't say that for 100%. I've just, as you say, the street talk you've heard is probably the street talk I've heard about what certain players are on.
Because we can put two and two together then and come up with £400 a week. But as players, do you talk to each other about how much you're making?
No, I'd be embarrassed to tell players what I am these days. It's just not. It's never something that I've ever had discussions with anybody. You'll get a couple of people that'll use it as banter. They'll pretend they're highly paid, or they'll do the opposite and they'll pretend they're lowly paid, just as a bit of whatever it is, like the old Conor McGregor thing. Look how much money I've got. All that kind of, or the opposite end of the scale where they'll pretend they're on absolutely peanuts. But nobody actually talks figures, and nobody's really. I don't think anybody's really that interested. I'm not really that interested in what people at Forfar are earning.
Mm-hmm.
If they were earning extravagant amounts, then maybe, but it doesn't bother me. It's not going to make my situation any better financially. Yeah. So
it's something that fans, I think, sometimes that fans can get. You see certainly online, take the Pine Bovril Forum, for instance, talking about players' wages, and it's just I always think, how can you possibly know what a player is making unless you are like the accountant or the administrator or the player themselves who's told you, or the player's agent or whatever, how much players are on. It does always seem to be a peculiar source of fascination how much players earn.
Yeah, well, I suppose if it's your club as well, you want to know that if you're supporting Clyde and some player that's not producing, and you hear they're getting £400 a week, it's going to annoy you.
Mm-hmm.
So I do get it from that point of view, but from my side of things, I'm just not really interested. It's not something that, it's not something that makes me tick at this moment in time. It's not something that I'm bothered about. Maybe when I was young, I think when you're younger, I think young guys are always trying to be a bit, maybe trying to get a sense of belonging or confidence, and they want to act like the big I am for a bit of respect. But I suppose when you're a bit older, it doesn't really make a difference.
What about Darren Young? He's come in to replace Ian McCall midway through the season. Obviously managed you at Stirling Albion and won the league with you. That was your second league title. How do you rate Darren Young?
Yeah, I really liked him. Like, as a guy, first and foremost, he was really good, and he developed as a manager in terms of when he first sort of signed me at East Fife. I was quite surprised about how nervous he was when he was sort of speaking in team talks when he first, because as a player, you're like he was quite a hard tackle midfielder at Aberdeen, had a great career, and he was, maybe because it was his first steps in management, and he was maybe a bit nervy when he was given team talks, and that's a different set of skills. And then by the time I joined him at Stirling, that had changed, and he was able to speak confidently, get his messages across. And what I think he does really well, wherever he's been, is his recruitment's been good, because he signed me twice. That helps. But like, I think when you look at the sort of the signings they did make it East Fife, which wasn't a big budget. After all his money talk, it wasn't a big budget from what I've heard, and he managed to get some really good players to buy in. Sort of Scott Agnew, Ryan Wallace, Stuart Murdoch, Chris Higgins, and got the best out of them. And then at Stirling Albion, he's brought in Kai Fotheringham on loan, who pretty much won us the league, to be honest with you. He scored some really vital goals.
That's a great player, great season.
And what he does really well is he kind of lets the players just run, creates that dressing room. I think he's conscious of it. He creates a good dressing room, very few bad eggs, and lets the dressing room kind of run itself. Kind of like a message from Dick Campbell's playbook, to be honest with you. Like, in terms of on the pitch, not like huge amount of tactics, but it signs players that know the positions well, can dig each other out when need to be dug out, but can encourage when needs to encourage, and get a tune out of them. And he certainly did that at Stirling when I was there. I did that at East Fife. We were challenging at the top end of League One. So I've no doubt if Clyde do stay up and he gets somewhere, then I'm no doubt that they will probably go in an upwards direction if they give him time.
We spoke about Stranraer very briefly when we touched on the match at Stair Park in fact, the other week there between yourselves and the Blues. But the impression I got from having seen them in the flesh and having watched their highlights is they've got bags of energy, a lot of young, really enthusiastic guys, but perhaps don't have that same degree of quality. Like, for instance, going back to that match when you beat them 2-1, when Craig Slater was able to get his foot in the ball, they just didn't have anyone that could match the quality, and it was quite easy. It was certainly easier for you guys to take a foothold in the game. That was the impression I got from watching them from the stands. You played in that game. What did you think of them?
It's difficult because whenever we played Stranraer with Spartans, I got to watch. I'd never played a minute against them. I got to watch it all. I was really impressed with, as you say, you've touched on it, the energy. We played the first game of the season. The speed, they were just running about everywhere. They were 2-0 up on us before we could even get a foothold in the game. We were trying to, so we were a bit more workman, like trying to work passes, but they were just one pass, boom, in behind, and all of a sudden I think they had the guy Dunlop.
Elliot Dunlop on loan from Airdrie.
Very impressed with him. Couple of runners as well that were really good, just pace everywhere, and then maybe shipped a couple of goals to set piece against us. Looked a bit sort of brittle and a bit naive in that game. And then when they came at Spartans, they had an absolute job on us. They beat us 3-1, and it was similar. We had the Spartans most of the ball. They counter-attacked with that energy and speed, and deservedly won out 3-1. And the first half against Forfar, when I've seen them there, it was very much the same. It's energy everywhere. The right winger, I forget his name. Grant, is it?
Matty Grant, yeah.
Again, just legs and pace and speed, and you don't know where he's going. It's horrible to defend against and play against. But then, for whatever reason, maybe it's the youth, because they're quite a young side, that maybe just kind of turned it off. Can't do it for 90 minutes. I don't know what the case was.
I think in that game, if I'm correct, Sean Docherty at right back had to come off at half time, and they had to move Matty Grant to right back, and they brought on Robbie Foster to play right mid, and Foster, for all he is like quite enthusiastic and quite energetic, he just doesn't have the same qualities as Matty Grant. And I think that for you playing at sort of left wing back in that match, it was nothing much got by you. I'll put it that way. That's probably that's quite charitable on Stranraer's part. I think you had a pretty strong second half in that match when he came on up against you.
No, I appreciate that, but I think you're right. I think in terms of, I think he didn't really push me back as much, and Matty Grant would have had me going the other way. He's got more speed than me, sharper than me, but it was a strange one. I think the right back was in a booking, so maybe that's what they're thinking. Listen, they might even it up because he sent. That's what referees can do at our level, so that's maybe what Aitken's thinking was. He might even it up, so I'm just going to play a bit caution here, but obviously it's backfired. And that, like, they maybe lack a little bit of quality, but I have been impressed with them, and I've seen them, like, in terms of their energy, because not that I'd written them off at the start of the season, but I thought they would be down there, and that's a team that are all playing for each other as well, and they seem like they're enjoying their football as well, although they got beat by us. They seem every time we've played them, they've been bang up for it. As I say, nobody's down in tools there.
I mean, it's a long way to go to Stranraer, I mean, especially on a midweek Tuesday night. But I mean, you've played for Arbroath, you've played for Forfar, and as an Edinburgh boy, that seemed quite a long way to travel. What's the appeal to going for a team that is quite a fair distance away from where you live?
Well, multiple things. I think when I first signed, I didn't have any other offers, to be honest with you. I only had Forfar, so that was, well, I was in training with Falkirk at the time, but they were not going to offer me a deal. But I had no other offers, so that was my first sort of. And then once I went up there, it depends, I suppose, where you go. But the beauty of the Angus clubs, from my experience, is you're well looked after. You're really well looked after. You're appreciated, and I had good dressing rooms at Forfar. My first spell, and Arbroath, that makes a huge difference. The Edinburgh sort of car school, because there was a few boys for Edinburgh that I went up, I was just happened to be pals with them. So again, enjoyed that experience of driving up with them. I had a girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, but I had no children at the time, so I could spend an hour and a half going one way, an hour and a half going back the way. I had the time to do that a lot easier. So it's just like a lot of different sort of factors sort of played into it. Both at Arbroath and Forfar, I was very fortunate as well that sort of Dick Campbell managed it, and you're getting humour. Mm-hmm. You're going to enjoy it as well. Like, you're going to just there's going to be something from his team talk that you're going to be pissing yourselves about on the drive home. Something he said, something wild that he said. It could be anything. So just so many different factors at those clubs. I think those clubs, and it's like Peterhead and Elgin as well. You go up there, the standard of food they put on after the game.
I've heard that about Peterhead.
Elgin as well. Elgin as well. Top notch. It's like they know you've travelled far, and they're so, if you beat them or they beat you or whatever it is, the people are so welcome in there. And I feel like Angus is a bit like that as well. I don't know if it's because they know you've came a long way for this or whatever it is, or if they're just nicer people from that neck of the woods. I don't know what it is. Then you're not. We played Partick Thistle, or we played in the League Cup. They give you no food. It's just like sling your hook. Aberdeen the same. So we go up to Aberdeen, this big club, little club coming. Spartans played a huge occasion for us in the quarterfinals of the last 16 or whatever it was of the League Cup, and there's nothing for you. So it's like, in fact, the Spartans went up to Aberdeen. Like, any food, no food for you. Nah, none at all. Can you get some pizzas? Yeah, you can get some pizzas in, but you'll have to pay for them. So Spartans had to pay for the pizzas at Aberdeen. So it's like, I don't know what it is. Sometimes the smaller clubs, more rural clubs, just a bit more welcoming, and I definitely found that from my experience in Angus.
Now, before we move on from Stranraer, I have to say a sincere apology to the club's media officer, Gary Redhead. I referred to him as Gary Redpath in last week's podcast, and when he got in touch to tell me about my boob, I was mortified. So I am very happy to clear up my mistake. Gary Redhead, thank you for your continued support of this podcast. Now, Danny, we'll look at some of perhaps the playoff contenders, the teams that are looking to get into the promotion hunt. And Stirling Albion, one of your old sides. At the beginning of the season, when I saw their transfer business, it seemed to be a couple of older, more experienced players and a lot of youngsters taking their first steps in the game. And I thought it was going to be a season of transition for them where they'd finish 5th or 6th. I haven't really seen much to suggest otherwise, given the fact that they'll win one week, lose the next. But if you joined a club in a season of transition, as a player, is that something you could join a club to be like, well, yeah, we probably are going to finish in mid-table, or would you be disappointed with like a lack of ambition in that, if you see what I mean?
See what you mean, but they're not selling that to the players that way. And as a player, you're not thinking that, oh, this is a club, we're going to finish 5th or 6th. They have players that have signed there are thinking, and we're going to be challenging.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be up there, top 4 at least, playoffs. So that's how they're seeing it. And Stirling's, as I said, I've played there. Stirling's a club, a good club that's just came down from League One, albeit it was a bit of, as you say, a transitional phase. But you're still thinking of it just came down from League One, so they'll still be strong. And they've still got some of their players like Dale Carrick, who I played with, was brilliant. Davidson, who left recently. Dale Hilson, players who have had a great career. Gaston signs, walks through the door. That's one of the best keepers in the Championship over the last few years. So I think they're thinking, from a player's point of view, they think they're coming in and they're going to challenge. And I think that was one you did get bang on in that BBC, by the way. That was the one you did say. So you've got one bang on. You mean law of averages?
Yeah, I suppose the law of averages. I went to see them in the flesh. Actually, when they played the Spartans, they lost that match 3-1, and I was just quite disappointed with them. There was guys in that team who I was looking to make a bit of an impact, but didn't. Mean Adam Brown, for instance, and that's a player who I absolutely adore, given what he did with Stennismuir last season. But he's a fantastic set piece taker. His corner kicks and his free kicks, I think, are some of the best in that league. You'll get about 7 or 8 direct assists off him. But he's one of the players that, if he's not directly involving the game, he can sometimes go missing.
Yeah, he's had a decent season though. He's got good numbers.
His numbers are excellent. Sorry, that was just the game that I was at when I saw him. I'd seen him have that kind of game at Stennismuir when he just dipped out of it and just couldn't really involve himself.
It's weird with him because I didn't see that game, even though I was a Spartans player. I wasn't even in the squad that night, so I didn't even see that game. But the game I did see him was at the previous game against them at their bit where they beat us 1-0, I think, and it was his debut.
Right.
And he did impact the game out with free kicks. I thought he was really good. Like, he was cutting in, just looking dangerous, just really clever runs. I was really impressed with him. But he's a player that's always knows his level well and is decent. And that's another player. That's a good signing. So if you look at them again on paper, they have got some good players, a lot of youth, and then they've obviously got big Gats in the goals who takes the average age up a bit. And they've got Dale Carrick, but the majority of them are young boys, and I feel maybe they've suffered from that, because I hear reports sometimes, like, a good pals with Dale Carrick, and he'll say 1 week, oh, we're tremendous, and next he'll say fucking miles off it, absolutely miles off it. And same with Spartans, they were so good against us. First game beat us 1-0 comfortable, came to Spartans, it was 3-0, and we'd been on a bad run, and it was 3 going on 4 going on 5. They were just looked like they forgot how to play football. So I think it's one of these seasons where they look great 1 week, terrible the next. And I also look on their Twitter as well, because I've still follow them because I played for them, and the fans seem to always be raging about, like, they'll be, we're like under the comments, maybe out or something or whatever it is. And then I look at the table and they're like 4th or like 5th. I'm like, it's not bad, is it really? Like, you've came down. You're not in a relegation fight. I suppose they see their team challenging for that league title. So who am I to judge? But maybe there's that feeling of negativity towards the players. Maybe they're feeling that right now, that bit of pressure. The fans get on top of them and lose a goal. I don't know.
It was, that game against the Spartans, and I do appreciate some of the goals. They lost 2 goals back to back, quite bad goals, or preventable goals, I should say, back to back. And the fans were very quick to get on top of the players. In fact, that's quite interesting. I mean, is you'll have played at all of these grounds where there aren't large supporters, they're not large in number, and you can feel like you can really hear specific shouts. Do you find that as a player? Do you find that off-putting? Has anyone ever shouted something to you at a game where you're just like, fucking hell, man, that's a bit much?
You hear all sorts, but like, it's usually fine. They're usually in good jest. Against Elgin at the weekend, before I came off injured, guy on the left side just kept saying, 12, you've shit yourself, but like, no, you've actually got shit in your pants, you've shit, just kept saying it, and that's all he kept saying. So I'm like, is he meaning that I'm like shitting myself from their left winger? But then he kept on saying, no, you've got shit on your shorts. So then I get paranoid, I'm looking at my shorts, there was no like,
he's in your head.
There's definitely no shit there, and there was maybe a bit of mud there, but it didn't look too bad. So that was weird. And then most of the shouts I've got are just like, most of them are just usual, like, fuck off, you're a diver, the usual just rubbish stuff. But then I've got Banks of D that was, but I mean, they're just getting called a putter or something like that, but in a Banks of D accent all game. But I mean, it's nothing that's really had. I've had nothing offensive, really, like really offensive to me, and it's not something that ever bothers me. Usually, it's in good jest. Usually, it's especially at this level. I've played for that many clubs, so it's usually going back to one of my old clubs, and it's just a bit of patter about that, and it's usually quite good. It's usually good fun. But you're right, you can hear absolutely everything because fans are usually quite tight to the ground, and there's only a handful of them, 400, 500 of them. So,
is it something that players talk about, like after a game, like you've had, say you've not had a great performance, and the fans on the back, you ever talk and say like, "Fucking hell, what was that all about?" The fans were out of order there.
No, really, nah. Like I'm trying to go back. I think you could feel it. It's like certain clubs, like bigger clubs. I think Falkirk. Because I had a chat with Paul Watson. It was like when things weren't like, if they were 20 minutes into a game and they hadn't scored in League One, it was just like this whole sort of stadium of just like doom and like just on their backs, and the players would feel that. And he said, yeah, we did feel that, and it made a big impact. I mean, that's a bigger stadium. I feel like with the teams I've played for, I mean, Arbroath they were getting decent crowds at the time. You never felt that sort of negativity sort of drown you wherever I've been. Spartans are like one of those friendliest clubs ever. I think you get told off for swearing at the referee or told off for swearing at players. It's one of the most politest clubs of all time. So I've not felt it recently for sure.
Yeah, I think the issue that Spartans actually need to have supporters for the supporters to get in your back in the first instance.
I'm saying nothing. I'm not saying anything. I'm still a Spartans player, Craig Telfer.
We'll come on and talk about the Spartans, because initially it looked like a really disappointing season for the Spartans, having done so well in the last campaign, getting to the playoff final. I think a lot of people were expecting the team to challenge for the title, not just challenge for promotion, but challenge to win outright. Really, really slow start, and where it looked as though that the team might be looking the other way over their shoulder, they've now drawn level on points with Elgin, and it's just goal difference that separates them. What did you make of the Spartans campaign, and do you think it's, how I've analysed it there, is fair?
Maybe. I mean, I think we've got really. I think again, you talk about on paper. I think we've got such quality, Spartans, and the League Cup campaign maybe took a bit of our eye off things in terms of, obviously you don't want that to be the case and you want to stay focused, but I can't remember, did we get to the last 8? I can't even remember. Was it the last 8?
Yeah, you got to the last 16.
16, sorry, last 16. Last 8, that's wild. But last 16 should be wild as well, beating Ross County and then going to Pittodrie, and amazing for the club, a lot of media attention for the club.
It was a quarter final, you're right, it was a quarter final, that was my mistake.
It was the quarters. Jeez, one away for Hampden. See, that was such a big thing for the club, and we had a lot of media attention for that, and some huge wins for that. It maybe took our eye off the ball a little bit subconsciously, and maybe underachieved. But now, I think if you look at the position they're in now in playoffs, I think playoffs was the aim at the start of the season, with the view of maybe going to challenge that top spot. But they're now pretty much on the verge of the playoffs, so there's been lulls in the season, there's been disappointments this season with the quality of players we've got. Because I look at the team, I'm obviously I'm not a wide man like I used to be. I look at the wide player options they've got: Hamish Ritchie, Cameron Russell, Mark Stowe, Jamie Dishington, and then I was there as well. Yeah, these are players that probably get in any team in the division, and they've had a few injuries as well that have curtailed them. But I don't know, something's been missing at times this season where it wasn't like Blair Henderson was scoring goals every week last season. He's still scoring goals, not in the same ratio. Brad White and James Cragen, they've not been awful this season. They've had decent seasons, but they were contributing maybe more from that sense of things. There's been a lot of reliance on Cammy Russell this year, who scored some really important big goals for whatever reason. I can't put my finger on it, because in terms of like preparation for games, it's second to none, Spartans. Like, there's so much analysis, so much whatever it is. The training's bang on point for whoever you're playing. Players are as fit as any players that I've played with. So it's maybe been a little bit disappointing. My prediction will be that they will get playoffs. They're now on the verge of it, and they're going in that direction. So I think they will get playoffs. And once they get to the playoffs, difficult team to play. For whoever finishes second bottom, or any of those teams that are in the top 3, Edinburgh City or East Fife or Peterhead, whoever it is.
You spoke about analysis there. What constitutes analysis at part-time level? How does it work? Does Dougie Samuel and his team give you, like, say you're coming up against, I don't know, Stirling Albion, and Stirling Albion have got a player, and they say this is what he does, this is what you need to do to counter it. How does it work at this level?
There's so much. There's this app called Huddle. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. HUDL, so. and it's like, so it watches your games, the opposition games, and on it you'll have like the opposition's recent games and their set piece routines, or the player you're playing against, his sort of what he does, expectations. And then on your games, it's like, so if we've played a game in 90 minutes, anything that I've done is clipped up. So any off the ball movements, any time I've been on in the camera shot, it's clipped up. So you just clip on your moments. So you see exactly it's really quite impressive. And then you've got, like, after every game, like the stats on absolutely everything you could think of, like duels in your own half, like passes, whatever it is, XG, all this stuff. It's got all this stuff. And then Spartans, they do, I don't want to give too much away, but they give a pack before games. So this will be on the morning off as well, and it's how you're playing, but it's got like slides on like the attack, what we're going to be doing attacking, what we're going to do defensively, what part of the pitch you need to be on. There's so much information, set pieces, etc. That's a lot, but that's Spartans, I think. I don't think that's everybody. I've not seen it as much elsewhere. I've not seen it at Forfar. So there'll be so much. And they've got a coach, Paul Thompson, who's in his Fife, but he's sort of big into that as well. And he'll take certain players aside and do a lot with them on that. So they're super well drilled, and like in terms of how they're ran, like it's proper professional. Like it's quite an impressive setup at Ainsley Park as well. Once you get inside the pitch, I hate the pitch. I don't think the pitch is good, but the actual setup inside the building is quite impressive.
I was there earlier in the season for a Scottish Cup event. I was working with James Craigan and Callum Booth, who are both really, really nice guys. I mean, I'd seen James Craigan interviewed in the television, and he came across exactly as I expected him to be. Just a lovely young man. So it was really good to see them, and I was very kindly taken into the changing rooms for a look. I was shown around the complex. Can't remember the guy. There might have been Gordon. It's not a guy called Gordon that did it. It was really, really sound, and it's a really impressive setup for the level that you're at. I think if you were to pitch up there for training and for games, you'd be like, this is really, really nice.
Oh, it's so enjoyable. Like it is. It's a bit too comfortable, a bit too cozy. I'll sometimes tell Kate I need to be in at 6:30. I need to be in at 7, just so I can get there and watch the big screen, watch a bit of football, get my own little cozy peg, chat to the boys. Maybe a bit too cozy. No, it's really impressive. Setup, and as I say, talk about changing room. There's just so many nice guys in that changing room. You touched on James Craigan, who, as we know, top fella, but Callum Booth, just the nicest.
Yeah.
And the most unintentionally funny guy in the world. I just laugh at him by looking at him. So I seen he scored at the weekend, and I'm like, he's the only player that would he's embarrassed to score. When you score against like your old club and nobody celebrates, he'd probably do that against anybody. He's just the nicest guy in the world. He'll scored against Bonnyrigg, and he just doesn't want anybody looking at him. He's just he just hates the attention, but that's why he's so funny. So like just it's full of nice guys in that Spartans changing room. I think he makes a point, the manager, of signing just nice fellas, good fellas.
And what about Dougie Samuel? How is it to play under him?
He's unique, yeah, he is. He's completely unique. I think he takes a more holistic approach to each player. He looks at, rather than a football manager's just there to try and win football matches, I think he takes a real active interest in every player's surroundings and family, and not just because he wants to know that you're a stable individual, but actually that I think he's big into caring about people. I think he's all about that energy. There's some things that he does that I think he'll know that I don't really like, in terms of he loves Jake Humphrey, and I can't stand the High Performance podcast. But he sees a lot of sort of parables from other sports, which I do like, and etc. But I can't stand Jake Humphrey. So whenever he mentions him, not for me.
Same. I would switch on. Somebody said, like, listen, I've been listening to a podcast. It's the High Performance podcast. I'd be like, heart sinking. It'd be one you sort of just inch away from them.
Yeah, I'm trying to be more open-minded about it, but whenever I hear Jake Humphrey, I try and switch off. But he does. When he doesn't mention Jake Humphrey, when he mentions other podcasts and other, he takes. I think he takes a lot of info from other sports, or from not even other sports, but from other sort of business and draws parables that are quite good. And he's amazing. I've never seen a manager hold court like him in terms of as a speaker. Like I said that Darren Young was really nervous earlier on. He is an unbelievable speaker. When he speaks, like he holds the room like really, really well. And he's obviously thought a lot about everything he says, every word he says a lot about. So I think he'll do really well higher up, to be honest, as well, which is a weird thing to say, but like
it feels like he's completely in with the bricks at Spartans. I mean, Sean and I we were talking about when Spartans were going through that run of bad form early in the season, and you just talk as you do, like, is Dougie Samuel in trouble? And remember that we came to the sort of the agreement that more so than any other manager in the SPFL, including like John McGlynn at Falkirk or Gary Naismith at Stennisweir, he is probably the most secure position out of any other manager.
I think I would agree. I think he would maybe disagree with that, and because he was saying we went for a wee sticky spell that I can get a bit. But the fact that he sort of ran the community foundation as well and ran it to such a high level, which it's like lauded in Edinburgh now, and he's been there for that long, and he's took them up. Which is I think it's a good thing for, as I say, some players, not the players that he's signed, but players sometimes will be like, well, he'll get sacked anyway, so the next manager I'll start. You know that he's going to be there, so you know that like you can't you can't. There'll be a few that'll maybe try and drop one in that we talked about earlier. You can't do that because you know he's going to outlast you for sure. So no, it's like a unique club. It is Spartans. It is a unique club because they are so about I talked before about good community clubs, and there's lots of good community clubs, but the stuff that they do, because I've seen it firsthand on a Monday, like they've just got so many different plates spinning, that community foundation in different areas, whether that's like Spartans connections with those people that are disabled or have mental health support, but also alternative schools for those kids that can't cope in mainstream school because of behaviour. They've got stuff
amazing
for parents in the community, because it's in an area. Ainsley Park is in an area with a lot of deprivation, and the work that they do in that area is quite impressive. You see a lot of sort of Spartans sort of kits kicking about Edinburgh, which you wouldn't see a few years ago.
It was one of the things I noticed going back to that Scottish Cup event, but just like when we're getting going, looking out on the pitch and looking at the pitch next to it and just seeing so many kids and young people just kicking the ball around, it must be a great feeling for the club to provide so much to the north of Edinburgh. So great feeling at the club. And if the Spartans are on a good run to push for the top four, Elgin City look like they're doing their best to chuck it away. They're in the worst form in the division, 6 consecutive defeats, and they just seem unable to score goals at the moment. I mean, you played against them at the weekend, well, for 35 minutes at least till you had to go off injured. What did you make of Elgin's performance? And what did you make of Elgin's performance? And how would you contrast that to them earlier in the season?
Yeah, I think I'm glad you said that second part, because that's how I was going to really answer it, because they came to Ainsley Park, beat us 3-1 and were brilliant. Really, really good. And then earlier on in the season we drew 1-1 with them, and just lots of energy, looked well coached, looked confident. As you say, it's amazing what a few losses can do, because I felt they looked so devoid of confidence at the weekend when we played them. And I know they've had a couple of injuries, missing maybe a couple of key players, but they just looked like a shadow of themselves. They looked brittle actually at times, and it was just, I felt like even with 11v11, I felt like it was a matter of time before we scored, and when we did score, it could have been 2, then it could have been 3. I know they had 10 men as well, but we are struggling. Forfar are struggling. I know we've had a couple of wins, but to go there and dominate, a tough place to go traditionally. They did look a shadow themselves, and maybe it needs a couple of players back to kickstart that, but I do fear for them in terms of that playoff push, because I know they're 4th just now, but Spartans are going that way, Edinburgh City are going that way, Stirling are probably in a better run of form than them as well, so they've got to watch out for them too. So they're not in probably a great place at the moment, and something needs to happen. They need something to go in their favour to change that momentum, because right now it looks like they're going to be out the playoffs.
You mentioned about Bonnyrigg being a tough place to go, and I think perhaps more Elgin City, more than any other club in Scotland, when you think of a tough place to go, you think of Bonnyrigg. What is it about Elgin that even if it's not necessarily the case, I haven't looked at their form over the course of the season relative to the rest of the division, but it's just what you think of when you think of Bonnyrigg. What is it that makes it a tough place to go?
Again, it could be that because I was just thinking back there. The last few times I've been there, I've not been beaten. So
Yeah.
maybe I'm just talking nonsense. Tough place to go. Can you do it in Stoke on a Wednesday night? But I do know that they've got a good home record. I did like previous to this spell, they did have a really strong home record. I think travel's one thing. You're going a long way to play there, which never helps if you're going a lot. If you've got a 4-hour bus drive, you're going to be a wee bit more leggy than the players. And I think they've got a lot more players closer to the stadium than that play for Elgin than they used to have. I think they're getting them a bit more local. I think it's the crowd. They're well supported, so they've got a good crowd. The players are a lot more confident. It's a grass pitch. Some teams do not have grass pitch. It's actually a reasonable grass pitch. It wasn't good at the weekend, but it's a reasonable grass pitch, and it suits their players because they do try and play a bit. So it's not like it's Bonnyrigg away and you're playing on a horrible pitch. It's a tough place to go for different reasons. It's not a tough place to go because it's a horrible pitch. I think it's a tough place to go because I think they feel more confident there, and that doubled with a 4-hour bus drive for away teams probably contributes to it.
Let's get into the good stuff. Let's look at the title contenders, and we'll start with, for my money, the best team to watch in Scotland at the moment, relatively speaking. I've seen them defeat you at the Spartans on 2 occasions at Meadowbank. This is Edinburgh City. What have you made of Edinburgh's season so far?
Wow, it really surprised me. Maybe probably surprised me less than they've surprised you.
Yes.
Considering I had them struggling at the bottom, but not quite as adrift as you.
I think that's why I like them so much, just because they have completely proven me wrong, and I'm completely invested in their journey this season.
They've really impressed me. Again, I think I've played 10. In fact, I played in the game that Spartans won against Edinburgh City, but I didn't play in the 2 away ones. But the 2 away ones that we played both times, especially the latter, wow, like they just blew us away. I think the first time they weren't winning games as much at the rate that they're winning them now, but I think that was maybe a turning point in their season, actually beating Spartans. They were really impressive that day. They obviously had an identity that they wanted to play with and don't deviate far from it. But they maybe didn't have their level of confidence that they do at this moment in time, because the last time we went there, it was 5 going on 6, 7. Yeah. They were so impressive. And I'm not even talking on the ball, because on the ball they're really good and they obviously work on rotations and how to get out, and it's really well coached, but just off the ball as well, like that they have worked on this press and the energy. We talked about the energy that Stranraer have. Edinburgh City's energy is on a different level. The players they've got, they're all young and hungry, and the proper run about off the ball brilliantly, but it's not just like headless chickens. They've definitely worked on this press. So no, they're flying, as much as it pains me to say.
As a Spartans player, are you aware of the rivalry between the two clubs? Because having been, especially that first match we spoke about, the 2-0 game in Meadowbank, Edinburgh City do not like Spartans. And I don't know if it goes back to, in fact, I don't know. I think it goes back to when the Spartans were in the Loans League, there was talk of a merger between the clubs, that becoming like FC Spartans of Edinburgh, something along those lines, which was taken really badly by the Edinburgh supporters. Are you aware of the animosity between the two teams?
I definitely am now. In fact, I think I was meeting you for a coffee after the Edinburgh City game.
The 2-0 game, yeah.
The 2-0 game, I felt, well, I didn't play in that game, but I had my Spartans tracksuit on. I only live round the corner from Meadowbank. I'll meet Craig for a coffee, and then get sort of accosted by a group of 14, maybe 14's been generous, probably 12-year-old, acne-faced, smelling of booze, ultras from Edinburgh City, pestering me something about Spartans and getting right in my face. It would have been a really sad end to the day if I'd been battered by a couple of 12-year-olds as well outside Meadowbank. So yeah, I'm very well aware that they don't like Spartans and Spartans players and Spartans. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it maybe does stem from that. I mean, I've heard Spartans' view on it, and I'm probably more willing to believe the Spartans' view. I know the people at the top of Spartans, and I know they're people of integrity. I don't know the Edinburgh City people, so I can say with that a bit, but I know that the person wouldn't be lying at Spartans who's told me the other side of that story. So yeah, I do know about the animosity now. I felt it from 12-year-olds at Edinburgh City. So yeah, I've seen it now, but I think it goes both ways now. I think there's a feeling within the Spartans as well that they've not liked that, and if they do get in the playoffs, they would very much like to face Edinburgh City again and get revenge for that, because they did feel quite hurt by the last couple of defeats with them.
No, it's what you said there. I completely agree with them. What I thought, they're a good footballing team. I think every player in that side's capable of playing football. All guys, even the guys that play like fullback, like John Robertson, for instance, he's a central midfielder who just laterally has moved to right back in his career. But just everyone's comfortable in the ball. Everyone knows what their jobs are, and there's just such a brio and such a vibrancy to the team. And I think a lot of that comes from the manager, Michael McIndoe. What do you make of Michael McIndoe? Have you had much to do with him at all, or spoken to him, or interacted with him?
I've just spectated, just watched him. He's like nothing else, isn't he? It's like no other human I've ever seen. He's I think he's an amazing coach. The way he's got them playing with those young players, it's incredibly impressive. But I thought it was very disrespectful last time we played Edinburgh City. But he backs it up, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like the team, but just the way he was speaking to sort of our bench and stuff, I thought was unacceptable, and just not how I would carry myself. And don't think anybody should carry themselves that way. But as I said, you can say all you want about the way he carries himself, but he's backing it up.
How would you say he's carrying himself? What was he doing that he found disrespectful?
I think he was very performative in some of the stuff he was shouting. He was shouting easy. Look how easy it is passing there, and then quite visibly making sure that our manager could hear it, and then trying to spin it by saying, "No, I was just saying that to my players, this and that." But it's just like, what? No, you weren't doing that. You were trying to get a reaction and successfully get a reaction from our bench. So maybe it is all a ploy. But for me, it appeared very performative. I didn't like that at all. Just out with football, I didn't like watching that. But the same other side of the coin, you're like, as a coach, wow, like I've never seen any manager at this level do what he's doing in terms of rotations. He talks big in his interviews, but he is backing it up.
Yeah.
So it's just not my personal taste. But like as a coach, he's backing up every single time. And there's a few players in that team that I really like. In terms of players I never knew of, the Innes Lawson.
Yes.
Wow, what a player. I like the boy Stokes. I think
yes.
he came trained at Spartans last year. I did like him, but I wasn't sure how good he was. He's been brilliant. And then guys I do know, like Sam Jones, I knew was a really good player from his time at Spartans. I mentioned that in the BBC podcast, and he's shown with regular games how good a player he can be. And Mark Weir, I love Mark Weir.
Yeah.
Mark Weir, what a big cuddly teddy bear Mark Weir is. But he's been fantastic for them as well.
I think Mark Weir, in terms of just like pure reflex saves, I think he might be one of the best goalkeepers in Scotland for it. I think that we've watched a lot of Edinburgh City's highlights. There's some games where he has won them points with ludicrous saves. In fact, I think that game against the 5-0 game, he pulled off a save just before the interval where he threw up an elbow just to get the ball and deflect it. And you're thinking there aren't many other goalkeepers at part-time level that could do something like that.
Nah, it's like he's again one of them that probably didn't have any other offers on the table. Maybe a couple at low in league, but like it's like a team full of like young, hungry players, or just like players that have been like slighted or like they've just there's no love for them at this moment. And he's found a way to show these boys love, like your Sam Jones, your Mark Weir, a bit older player, they're mid 20s, late 20s, and then this balance of these just young, hungry, untapped players. Even like Connor Young, I thought he's gone, they'll buckle. I think I said it to you. I think they'll fall away now that he's left, and they've just got better. Uzi C's came back from Love Island, and he's been a Player of the Month awards. Like, just it's like one goes out, one comes in, but it stays the same. That shows me how well coached they are. It's not just about the individuals, and there seems to be a great spirit about the place as well.
Yeah, aye. I'd spoken to Eden Lynch, again, another player who's a hero to me after he won the league with Stennismuir last season. He was suspended for that game, the 5-0 game at Meadowbank against the Spartans, and he was just talking about, asking about what it's like to play under McIndoe, and he just says it's amazing. The guy has just completely got everyone buying into what he's looking to do. And I think that's what you have to, if you've got guys that if you've got a squad, it's of doesn't have a lot of money, and you're just trying to make these young guys better. And there was a game they'd lost to East Fife. They lost 4-1 to East Fife, and they were winning 1-0 up, but they chucked it away with like 10-12 minutes to go. And the interviewer asked him in McIndoe's post-match interview about it, and he said, listen, we will make these players better. We will train them to be in the right places so they can go and win these headers. And it's just remarkable to hear. I've never heard a coach speak like that at this level. Like, he never seems to blame the players for anything that goes wrong. You can sometimes dig them out, but for that game where you've collapsed, he felt like it was on him because he wanted to make these players better so they don't make these mistakes again.
Maybe I'm just not buying into him as a guy. I think you may, as a coach, yes, but I do feel there's a bit of performing. I think he's very aware of what he's saying at times.
But he's backing it up. That's the thing.
He is backing it up. He is backing it up. It's one of them that I love the football that he's playing. I love the off the ball movements. It's just so impressive. I just wish he was a wee bit more respectful. But listen, that's maybe the gentleman in me.
We'll go into second place where Peterhead are, and it's generally been a good season for them, but they have seemed to drop points to teams that East Fife might not. For instance, they chucked a 2-goal lead against Forfar, drew home to Clyde, couldn't get the better of Stranraer at the weekend. What are your thoughts on Peterhead from what you've seen of them?
It's just again what you said, touched on what you said there. We played Peterhead at Spartans recently before I left, and they absolutely battered us at Spartans at Ainsley Park. Just the way they were passing the ball around us, popping it around us, should have been 3 or 4 up, and then we score against the run of play completely in the 60th minute, and then for the rest of it, after that, they have us camped in our own 18-yard box for the last 15 minutes of the game, and they just couldn't score, and it was the biggest robbery of all time. And we've nicked the 3 points. We then go and play East Fife a week later, and it was an even game. It could have went either way, and then Troughton scores a penalty, and they win the game. So, like, if you looked at the 2 games in isolation, look at the 2 teams, I'm like, well, they just kind of snuck a win against us, whereas Peterhead are the better side. But then over the season, that's happened all the time because East Fife are winning the league. So they're the team Edinburgh City have impressed me a lot. I think Peterhead have been the team, and I've watched them, that they look the best team in the division for me whenever I've seen them. But that's just on isolation, the games that we've played against them. I think they've got good quality players, really high quality players.
Yeah.
They do play good football. They're maybe like Edinburgh City with just more quality, I think, and maybe not quite as mobile as Edinburgh City, but they are still mobile, but not quite as mobile as Edinburgh City, but just high quality in every position. You were talking about some of the high quality players, and it's relatively big names. I know he's in his twilight years, but Rory McAllister, arguably the best lower league striker of all time. You know, Cammy Smith, Peter Pollock, Kieran Dunn, all very good players. I mean, as a player, when you sign somebody that's like a high profile relative to the level, do you get excited about that? If you've got, wow, we've got this guy who's played at this level, is going to come in, that's class. Does that give the place a lift? What if he's coming to steal your position? Yeah, I think you're glad you said that last bit. It really does give the place a lift, unless they're a left winger. In my heyday, I used to get quite bitter about that. Why are we saying another one of them? We've got 4 wingers. What's going on here? But no, it does give you a buzz when you sign a big player. You're like, we're going for it now. Like, that's given us a wee injection, and it does, because you want to win things, and you know players that are good players and that'll do well. Like, so yeah, the players that they've got will entice other players to come there as well. From my point of view, it would. Unless, as you say, they're left wingers and I'm there, I'm like, oh, fuck's sake.
Do you ever get worried about, like, I'm going to use an example, and it's something that Sean and I cite a lot in this podcast, but when Craig Bryson joined Stennismuir, a lot of people who hadn't seen him play were like, that's an amazing signing for that level. He's going to stroll it. And I remember at the time thinking, I'm not sure. And one of the instances when I was proven right, do you get worried about when you're like somebody who's dropped down a level and just think, I'm not sure if he's got the minerals or the stomach to play at this level. He's been used to playing on good grass pitches and a higher standard. He's coming down to this level. He might get dragged down. What's your general thoughts on something like that?
I think I don't get worried about it, but there is evidence to your theory. It's like Danny Swanson came to East Fife and he was like brilliant and didn't quite do it at East Fife, and you probably expected more. But then we've also had ones that have just came and fitted in seamlessly and definitely added quality. Like you think, as you say, Callum Booth played at a high level, came down, but he's been great around the place as well, and it's really added to the club at Spartans. So I think more times than not, you're just quite excited about it. And also, I'm also excited when you get players that have dropped from above, because I want to pick their brains. I've never played at that level. I don't know what it's like at that level, so I like to chat to them about this. He played at Galatasaray away. I want to know about Galatasaray away. Like St Johnstone at Galatasaray away is crazy. It's just little things like that I like to pick their brain on. So no, I think it's, again, I think we were talking about this the other day, but the dynamics of a squad. I can't remember who I was talking to this with, but like what age you want the players. I think if you've got too many guys at that sort of over the 30 stage, then you're in a bit of trouble. But if you've got too many guys under 20, 22, 23, you're in trouble. I think it just needs to be that balance. Balance of a couple sort of spread out. Nobody too old, nobody too young, sort of around about that. I think the Stirling team was really successful because it was guys from about the age of 24 to about 30. And that was the crux of the squad, and that's probably why it was successful. So just getting the balance right rather than having too many Craig Brysons or Callum Booths. Get a couple of them in.
What are your thoughts on co-manager situation? Obviously, Jordan Brown and Ryan Strachan doing a pretty good job there. And now, I'm not saying it's become a trend, but you've got that Arbroath, David Gold, your friend. He is co-managing the team with Colin Hamilton. How do you think the dynamic works in a co-manager situation?
I don't know. I genuinely, I think it's bizarre. I speak to Goldie about it, and it seems to like they're loving it because they're friends as well, and the going's been good for them. They've been winning games.
Very good.
But like, I don't know what happens. Does Goldie take most of the coach? I've never really asked him much about it. I don't want to interfere too much. Does he do much of the coaching? Does Hammy do more of the team talks or the confrontational side? Because as a player, Hammy was better in those confrontational moments, and Goldie was more of a really good social communicator. I don't know how they do it, but I think it would just depend on the egos of the individuals. I think if you've got two guys like Hammy and Goldie, they're not high egoed individuals. I think they respect each other's opinion. But if there is one with a more inflated ego and he's going, well, how's this guy getting the credit for getting the promotion? It's me that's been doing it all, and then that can maybe get rifts. But I don't see that happening at Arbroath because I know the two individuals involved and they both care for each other, care for each club, and they've not got high egos. And I know Jordan Brown at Peterhead, similar, absolute gentleman of a fella. I don't know, Strachan, isn't it?
Yeah, Ryan Strachan.
I don't know him so well, but I think it depends on the character of the co-managers. As you say, it was Rhys McCabe and... No, he wasn't co-manager. He was manager, wasn't he?
He was manager. Callum Fordyce was assistant.
So it's just those... Kettlewell and... I can't even remember
Steve Ferguson.
There's one for you, because everybody knows Kettlewell. Kettlewell's got all the credit. Is that one that's... I don't know.
Because Stephen Ferguson took I think he's still at Ross County in a sort of a oversight role. He left that position to take up a more senior role in the club. So yeah, there might be something in that. Certainly, David Gold's certainly much more aware of David Gold. I mean, we're not here to talk about anything in League One, but just David Gold, I much prefer listening to his post-match interviews than I do Colin Hamilton's.
Colin Hamilton, when I played him, was a man of few words, but like when he spoke, you listened. Like,
right.
And he was as loyal and as honest as they come, and would have your back in it. So like, he's one of those characters. Whereas Goldie's just a fantastic communicator. He's one of my good friends. Like, a really good friend of him, but he's been coaching for years. The way he talks with kids, the way he talks about it, he knows how to change his style of communication depending on who he's working with, but he's authentic as well. Like, he's a proper authentic guy. I hold him close to my heart, and I hope that for him and Colin Hamilton and my former club Arbroath, I hope they go and do it. No offence to Steny, who are competing at the other teams competing, but I hope they go and win that league.
Sorry, listener, for that brief dawdle into League One. That wasn't meant, but we're going to come right back on track by talking about someone else who is very close to your heart, Danny, and that's Dick Campbell. His East Fife team are top of the table in pole position at the moment, and there was I've shared this story in the podcast before. We were at hospitality at East Fife back in December. They got invited along by Scott Young. Brilliant, very appreciative to get asked along. And we were sitting at the table with Liam Newton, a young player who was injured and was sitting with us. And we're asking him, so what's it like to play under Dick Campbell? And he said, basically, he just wants the ball kicked up the park as quickly as possible and get to the good players. And we always sort of laughed away at it, thinking, surely he doesn't say that. But then Dick Campbell came into hospitality and said that, I just tell my players, get the ball up the park as quickly as possible and play for there. And just like, I burst out laughing at that because I thought that Liam might have been exaggerating, but no, that's exactly what he said. What's it like to play under Dick Campbell? Your dad signed you 3 times, I think it was?
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it, but it's not an exaggeration to say that what Liam Newton said. But when I was playing, it was get the fullback, get the ball. Whenever you got the ball, just get to the wingers, and if they didn't beat their man, they're coming off. Simple as that. Get the ball forward, pretty much. Get the ball, air the top, and get the fucking bugle out, son. And we'll get up to the halfway line. That is what he used to say. It's just like the stuff that I listened to. He was on the open goal wings thing, and I listened to it, and the stories like that they're telling. I've heard them a million times. If you hadn't heard them, they'd be the funniest things ever.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, fucking heard that one, heard that, because I've been playing for him for that long at the time. But no, you talk about simplification. He just simplifies everything. And I've talked before about recruitment and getting good players together, but I think they're very good at that. They don't stand for any real arseholes, and if they are an arsehole, they're quite quick to get them out the door. So again, East Fife looks like that, and he's bringing in the players that he knows that'll play for him and do what he does. He signed Andy Monroe in Easton's already there, but it's Andy Monroe. Andy Monroe is one of the best defenders in League Two when he defends. Like,
when he defends,
I doubt. I know you always say this, but he is right. The last time I've seen, like, he's my friend, a really good friend. The last couple of seasons, he's been magnificent in terms of defending. He's been brilliant and kind of underappreciated at certain clubs like Stenhousemuir. And
listen, I've said the same thing with Andy. When it comes to the meat and potato stuff, I think he's one of the best in the business, and I think that you're perhaps right. I think that he has simplified his game and just be like short passes to the ball players rather than fancy being like Alessandro Nesta, just head and kick and just do what's good. And the times I've seen him, he's a big strong presence and he's holding that back line together.
And that's what Dick Campbell's asking him. You and Easton, just go and clear your lines, go and defend, and that's what they do. They're probably the best at it in the division. And then they've got Troughton, who's they get the ball. So if they can get the ball forward to Troughton and Fash, they're going to do well, and they have done. And Troughton's been immense. Like, it's
20 goals.
He's a freak. He's got more than he's got, like, in all competitions, like mid-20s. He's a freak. Like he's. I keep forgetting how old he is. Like
39.
Yeah, crazy. Like, still fit as hell. Like, fit as hell, sharp as his goal at the weekend. I looked like
so well taken. The one against Clyde.
How well taken is it? It's brilliant finish. But the way I was reading it, I was like, I'll go on the Twitter updates. It's one that's like just felt him. He's hit it. The way they were talking about it didn't sound that impressive. I watched it back and it was so sharp. What a run, and just what a finish. Like, the weight of the finish, deft finish in that bottom corner. And the goal he scored at Spartans on the season in the most horrible conditions. Like, he's just caressed this into the top corner. All kinds of goals. If there's a penalty, you're in trouble. He's never missing a penalty in a million years. I could wax lyrical about Troughton all day, but even then you've got players like Caniggia. You'd have loved Caniggia, Miller.
Oh, yeah.
You'd have loved him, but he's a joy to play with. McManus has been brilliant for them. Players that maybe haven't got going in previous seasons seem to have just really turned it on for him, and maybe that's to do with the simplification, getting it forward quick. Because what they did, again, I talk about Spartans again in Peterhead, what they did different from Peterhead was they didn't fanny about with it too much. They just got the ball straight from forward, and then we'd probably win the header, but they're right onto that second ball, whether that's Troughton, Caniggia, McManus, whoever it is, Norrie, whoever it is in that middle of the park, that they're onto that ball and they don't give you a minute's peace. It's a proper battle every time you play against them, and that's a sign of his sides. When I played them, if we went forward, for me it was about picking up the scraps at times or gambling in behind. There was a lot of that. It wasn't silky football. I've never been a technically gifted player that likes playing all this lovely football. It was more fast and frantic. I think it's obviously been very successful at the level League 2, League 1, Championship, but been very successful this season as well because they're top of the league.
You know, one player we've not really spoken about, and this is someone who a friend of yours, Michael McKenna, who joined the club from Falkirk. After, I thought it was a bit of a strange signing, him going to Falkirk from Arbroath, particularly at that stage of his career. Didn't get the game time he wanted, but what he made of his impact since he's gone to East Fife?
I haven't seen much of them. I've seen them once. I think it was his debut or maybe his second game at Spartans, and he was quiet, but he hasn't, as you say, he hasn't played a lot of football at all, and he's been brought in at East Fife, a team that's flying to come in, and it's everybody expects him to light up, and he maybe hasn't got the numbers or what people have maybe quite expected as of yet. But I know how hard it is from playing, and from like the last few weeks. Obviously, I've played games I hadn't played at all, and you feel, wow, like you just want to get through it a lot of the time. Just want to get through it, but I can get away with that because nobody's expecting me to come and light it up anymore. Whereas Mikey McKenna's coming down, and they've probably played a bit for him, and they're expecting him to light up, and it's just not as easy as that. So it might take him a few weeks to get going, but I'm sure he will. I'm sure he'll be firing soon, and what a player to have. And if you're going for that title push with Peterhead, it looks like maybe Free Horse, maybe Edinburgh City, but it looks like it'd probably be Peterhead, East Fife. So what a player that can make a difference. You talk about McAllister at Peterhead, but McKenna's McKenna. Then you got McKenna. You got Higginbottom now, who's maybe a bit underrated still. You've got Jack Healy, we've not even talked about, and that's before you talk about Troughton and Austin, and Scott Shepherd, who's been really good for them, by the way.
He's turned into a pretty good lower league wide attacker, Scott Shepherd.
He's a proper Dick Campbell player because he's as good and honest. He's as honest as you come, and he'll
does
run
what he's
channels.
Told.
Exactly, does what he's told. Work hard, put you under pressure, and sometimes at this level, that's good enough.
Yeah.
And too many snobs. There's a lot of snobs at our level still. Most teams try and play at the back. There's no snobs in Dick Campbell's not a snob. You can't call him that. I think he just plays agriculture football, but it's effective.
Maybe that was it. I've just never heard a manager speak so... I don't use the word flippantly, but maybe flippantly is the right word. Just someone who's just doesn't no interested in tactics. And I think that, I don't know if it's like Dick Campbell, and I'd be interested to get your thoughts. You know, where he was quite beloved when he was at Arbroath, when they almost took them into the Premiership. If you remember that season that they had, and I always feel that since then he became a bit. Like the tall tales became a wee bit taller than previously, almost like he was sort of myth building and feeding into a legend. And I don't know if that sort of stuff, like being as offhand about tactics, feeds into that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. There's always a bit of there's always a bit of performance with Dick as well, because I think the sort of myth or the legend of Dick over the last few years obviously has grown arms and legs, and maybe he's bought into it a little bit potentially, and he knows the character and what will sell a bit more and get more, and he loves it. He loves being the centre of attention, like he does. There's no doubt in that. So there's potentially a bit of that, but I think there's a lot of players that I know that aren't a fan of him at all. But for me, I've got a lot of love for him, even though he says some wild things. Some very, very wild things and inappropriate things at times. But as someone that gave me a first taste of Scottish football, I always have a lot of love for him.
Yeah, you can let go of the odd slur because he was very, very kind to you.
No, of course, yeah. I've got no principles. If you're nice to me, my principles go right out the window.
So just to wrap up, Danny, give us who's going to be the winner of League Two?
East Fife.
Who are the three clubs that are going to finish in the promotion playoffs?
Peterhead, Edinburgh City, and Spartans.
Are any of those three teams going to get promoted?
Yes.
Okay. And who's finishing as Club 42?
Well, hopefully not Forfar. Any one of the others that are competing is good enough for me. What I don't want to say is X club, and then they will pin that on the dressing room wall. So just anybody bar Forfar, please. I
wonder if there are any professional players that listen to this. I think there's one or two that I know of that listen to it, that play part-time football. There's one or two in fact, I can say there's two who I definitely know listen to it. But it'd be interesting if you are a player who does listen to the Terrace podcast. Please let us know, because we'd love to have you on, and we'd love to talk to you about football, much in the same way that we've done with Danny here. But just to finish up, Danny, you've spoken about it a number of times that this is probably going to be your final season as a player. I mean, you're going to be 35 in August, and I just wondered if, because it's something that you and I have spoken about when we've been texting you, is that you said a couple of times that this is going to be the last one. But as say, for instance, Forfar stay up, say Forfar finish 8th, Jim Weir offers you a contract for another season, would you take it?
No, I just, at this moment in time, I wouldn't, but I would like to be able to take it. I would like to say yes, but it's just, I keep telling my wife every year, this is my last year, and then I end up going to sign a new deal somewhere. And if I go from Spartans, 10 minutes for the house, which you can just about get on board with, to Forfar, it's a hard sell. It's difficult because I have got a buzz back again. I genuinely have got a buzz back again. But the sacrifice in terms of the family is still there, and it has been there for a while, and there's bigger things I've got to think about at times with that, and travel, and even just to compete, to be able to compete with the teams and to compete with players in my position and to play the games is a lot of effort. I'm knackered. I'm just tired. Playing the extra hour game took a lot out of me. These games take a lot out of me. I'm sore, and I'm going to work the following day, and I'm knackered from that. So just impact on my body as well. And I don't feel like it's like things I used to be able to do easily, I just can't do. I used to be able to skip away from players. I've got no chance of getting away from players these days. So if I have to be a bit more shrewd with my performances, it's hard work. So at this moment in time, it's not 100%. I said to you, never say never, and I am enjoying it a lot at Forfar. But to be honest with you, I think this is it. I think this will be it in the summer.
What would you do if you weren't playing? Would you still be involved?
Not initially. I think I need to. I have a wee break and watch my son play sport or whatever it is on weekends and spend some time with them, and then maybe get back in some capacity. I don't really fancy coaching, but I always thought refereeing. Do you know? It's just I always thought I'm maybe getting a bit old for that, you know. But the standard of refereeing has been horrendous.
I think,
years.
given your profile, I think you'd be fast tracked as well to the very top. Ex-player, still fit, someone who's a good talker, good communicator. That's catnip to the Scottish FA.
I don't think they're looking for good communicators from what I've seen in my level. Just not looking to build relationships. A lot of the ones that do. There's one called George something. I can't remember his surname. He's quite spice boy. He looks a bit like he's got tattoos, but anyway, great communicator, and he looks to build relationships. Makes some honking decisions, but the fact that he builds relationships, brilliant. I just wish they all did that, because it makes life easier for them, makes life easier for us, makes life easier for everybody involved. Building relationships. That should be that's how I'm going to change it. That's my first thing. I'll go in, I'll tell whoever's in charge, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to build relationships.
There you go, and that's it. They've won a league title in your first season. Well, you know, I was going to ask you what we'll do, Danny. We'll catch up again in the summer if you do hang up. We'll catch up in the summer and we can take a deep dive into your career, almost like a Pele podcast part 2. I think at that point you were still at Arbroath. So it'd be interesting if we talk about like the latter part of your career as an elder statesman in the game. But so it's been a great career though. I think on the whole, when I was pulling together this podcast, I think that 2 league titles, promotion, relegation, and that's not all done yet. I mean, you could don't attempt fate, but you could play a big part in keeping Forfar in the SPFL this season. So it's achieved quite a lot.
Yeah, I'm really grateful. I've said it before. I've said it a lot recently, but the gratitude that I've had to play at this level, because I love football. I never ever thought, I think I've said in the past, I never thought I'd ever be paid to play football once I was released at a young age. The fact I've managed to string together almost 15 years at this level has been brilliant, because I'm a nerd. I'm a football nerd. See when we get on the bus on the way back, I was talking this with Big Ayrton Sonker, like we just play football quizzes, me and him. Like it can be just football stuff. It'll be like, I'll just go, we'll play a game called Just Guess the Age, and I just name a player, and he has to guess an age, and I get to guess the age, and who gets closest gets a point, who gets it bang on gets 2 points, and then we Wikipedia and we go, yes, whatever it is. We'll do that for about 2 hours. And it's just like, just football, football daft. So to have had the career of getting paid to play football has been I've just been so lucky. So lucky.
And just a good game to play next time you're on the bus. Go on Wikipedia and you go look through a player's career and you read out the clubs he's been at, and then if you can guess who the player is. Done that one. Oh, you've done that one, of course.
So you take the first club. So it'll be like, whatever, any guesses, and then you'll get the next club, and then you'll do the next club. Yeah. But I'm too good at it. I'm incredible. I think if I was to rival you guys at the Terrace on like, if we went for like Scottish Championship downwards players, I think you would smash me. But if you go for like worldwide football, I think there's no better. Genuinely no better in the game. Okay,
well hopefully you get a chance to put that to the test at some point. But Danny, you've been very generous with your time. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it, and we will definitely catch up in a couple of months' time.
Brilliant. It's a pleasure as always chatting to you, Craig.
Thank you, and thank you very much to you, the listener, who has sat for the past 100 minutes listening to just dudes talk about football. It's fucking class. It was really good. If you like this podcast, like this format for podcast, let us know, because I think it might be worthwhile doing this for League One and the Championship, where we sit with a player, interview them about their career, and also tie in the other teams. A couple of players we've got in mind for League One and the Championship, but do let us know, because that's if there's no one listening to it, it's like, what if a tree falls in the woods and there's no one there to hear it? Does it make a noise? If we record a podcast and no one listens to it, does it make a noise? Let us know. But we will go and we will go, and one final thing, please continue to support the Terrace on Patreon, patreon.com/Terrace podcast, and do watch A View from the Terrace. That is back at the moment. It's coming on Friday, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Myself, Sean and Fowler, and we've got a special celebrity guest, so that is going to be a lot of fun. But once again, thank you very much. Take care. Enjoy your football. But unlike the people who said some slurs at Danny at Bank City, enjoy your football, but please do so respectfully. Thank you. Goodbye.